The throne room of Queen Thyra was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The queen herself sat frozen on her throne of bones, staring at the blank screen where Park Do-hyun's face had been just moments before. She had lived for 500 years. She had conquered 3,000 worlds. She had killed billions of creatures without feeling anything but boredom. And now, for the first time in centuries, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Doubt. "My queen," General Vorik said carefully. "Your orders?" "The fleet awaits." Tara did not answer. She was thinking about something Do-hyun had said. About how tyrants always meet someone who says no. About how once people know you can be beaten, they never stop fighting. She looked around her throne room. At her generals, who were trying to hide their fear. At her children, who had never seen her hesitate. At the bones beneath her feet, all that remained of the kings and queens she had destroyed. For the first time, she wondered if her bones would one day decorate someone else's throne. "Send a drone," she said finally. "I want a complete scan of that ship." A few minutes later, the results came back. General Vorik read them with growing disbelief. "My queen, the Morning Star has suffered severe damage. Their shields are at 12%. Their main weapons are nearly depleted. They've lost 40 crew members. The ship's hull has multiple breaches. Their engines are running at half power. So they are dying," Thyra said. "Yes, my queen. They cannot survive another major attack. If we send everything, they will be destroyed within the hour." Thyra nodded slowly. Victory was within reach. All she had to do was give the order, and this nightmare would end. Do-hyun would die. The colony would fall. And the galaxy would remember that no one could stand against the Valari Empire. But she hesitated. "What is the estimated cost?" she asked. Vorik checked the data. "Based on our casualties so far and the humans' defensive patterns, we estimate losing between 2,000 and 3,000 ships. Perhaps more, depending on what other tricks he has prepared. 2,000 ships, minimum." Thyra closed her eyes. 2,000 ships was not a small number. It was the largest loss the Valari Empire had ever suffered in a single battle. It would take years to replace them. Other species might see it as a sign of weakness. Rebellions might start. Old enemies might sense an opportunity. And for what? One colony? 40 million humans? She thought about the broadcasts that had been sent across the galaxy. Every species with a receiver had watched her fleet get humiliated by one human ship. They had heard Do-hyun's words. They had seen the fear on Valari faces. The damage was already done. "My queen," said a new voice. Prince Carvix, her eldest surviving son, stepped forward. He was tall and proud, but there was something in his eyes that had not been there before the battle. "I have a suggestion. Speak. We should withdraw." The throne room erupted in gasps. Withdraw? The Valari Empire never withdrew. It was unthinkable. Impossible. "Silence," Thyra commanded, and silence fell. She looked at her son. "Explain." "The human has already won," Carvix said, his voice steady despite the anger from the generals around him. "Not the battle. We can still win the battle. But the war? The real war? He won at the moment we hesitated. The galaxy is watching. If we throw thousands of ships at one damaged vessel and barely succeed, we look weak. But if we withdraw now, we can claim we are preserving our forces for greater conquests. We can say this colony is not worth our time. We would look like cowards," Vorik growled. "We would look practical," Carvix countered. "Then in a year, when we return with even more ships, no one will remember this day. But if we lose 2,000 ships, that will be remembered forever." Thyra was silent for a long time. She hated this. She hated that one human had brought her to this point. She hated that her fleet, her beautiful fleet, had been humiliated by an old ship with a stubborn commander. But she had not survived for 500 years by being stupid. "General Vorik," she said at last, "signal the fleet." "Yes, my queen." "Full attack?" Thyra stood from her throne and walked to the window. Outside, her ships waited. 10,000 vessels of war, the pride of her empire. And beyond them, floating alone in the darkness, the morning star. "No," she said, her voice heavy with something that might have been regret. "We withdraw." The bridge of the morning star was falling apart. Fires burned in several sections. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. The air was thick with smoke, and the smell of burning metal. Commander Park Do-yoon sat in his chair, watching the enemy fleet through the cracked main screen. His crew worked around him, trying to keep the ship alive for just a few more minutes. They all knew the truth. If the Velari attacked now, they would die. "Sir," Lieutenant Yuna said, her voice rough from the smoke, "I am detecting movement in the enemy fleet." Do-hyun leaned forward. "What kind of movement?" "They are turning around." The bridge went silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at the screen. "That cannot be right," Officer Jisiok said. "Check again." "I have checked 3 times, Yuna replied, her voice filled with disbelief. "The Velari fleet is withdrawing. All 10,000 ships. They are leaving the system." For a long moment, no one spoke. No one moved. They just watched as the massive enemy armada slowly, impossibly, began to retreat. Ship after ship turned away from the planet and jumped into hyperspace, disappearing in flashes of purple light. Did we win?" Navigator Yoonji asked, her young voice trembling. Do-yoon did not answer immediately. He watched until the last Velari ship vanished, until the space around Kepler 442b was empty except for debris and stars. Then he leaned back in his chair and let out a long, slow breath. "Yes," he said quietly. "We won." The bridge erupted in cheers. Officers hugged each other. Some cried. Some laughed. All of them had expected to die today, and somehow, impossibly, they were still alive. Do-hyun let them celebrate. They had earned it. But he did not join in. He was thinking about what came next. About all the battles still to come. About how this was just the beginning. A communication came through from the planet below. Governor Choi Minji appeared on screen, tears streaming down her face. "Commander Park," she said, her voice breaking. "I do not know how. I do not know what. Thank you. Thank you for saving us." "It was not just me," Do-yoon replied. "It was my crew. Every one of them. What you did today, the whole galaxy saw it. The whole galaxy knows. You showed everyone that the Velari can be beaten, that their empire is not invincible. Do you understand what that means?" Do-hyun nodded slowly. "It means the fighting is just starting." "Yes, but it also means something else. It means hope. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy has hope." The communication ended. Do-hyun sat in his chair, surrounded by his celebrating crew, and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Queen Thyra was retreating with her fleet, planning her revenge. Somewhere out there, other species were watching the news feeds, seeing what had happened, beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could fight back too. And somewhere out there, in the endless darkness of space, a legend was being born. The story of one man who stood against an empire. One ship that faced 10,000. One voice that said no and meant it. Lieutenant Yuna walked over to her commander and stood beside him. "Sir," she said softly, "what do we do now?" Do-hyun looked at her. Then he looked at his crew, these brave men and women who had followed him into the impossible. "Now?" he said. "Now we fix our ship. We heal our wounds. We bury our dead with honor. And then, he stood up from his chair and walked to the window. The planet below was beautiful, a world of blue and green, filled with people who could now live in peace. And then we wait, because the Valari will come back. And when they do, we will be ready. He placed his hand on the window, feeling the cold glass against his palm. This is just the beginning. The stars glittered in the darkness, cold and eternal. But among them, something new had been born. Something that would change the galaxy forever. The legend of Park Do-Yun, the Undying Wall. The man who made an empire afraid. And somewhere, in the vastness of space, Queen Thyra sat on her throne and stared at nothing. She was already planning her return. She was already imagining her revenge. But deep inside, in a place she would never admit to anyone, she knew the truth. She had lost something. Today that could never be. Regained. She had lost the belief that she could not be. Beaten. And the human who had taken it from her would never give it back. The story was far from over. But for now, for this one shining moment, humanity had won, and the galaxy would never forget. The first Valari ships moved forward like dark clouds rolling across the sky. Queen Thyra watched from her throne room, her ancient eyes fixed on the small human vessel that dared to stand in her way. She had given the order to attack. There was no other choice. She could not show weakness. Not now. Not ever. But something was wrong. The first wave of attackers, 50 of her fastest warships, flew toward the morning star with weapons blazing. Plasma fire lit up the darkness of space. Missiles streaked across the void like angry stars. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The morning star did not run. It did not hide. Instead, it flew directly into the attack. What is he doing? General Vorik muttered, watching the battle on the main screen. He is outnumbered 50-1. This is suicide. But it was not suicide. It was something else entirely. Commander Do-Yun sat in his chair, completely calm as the ship shook from enemy fire. Around him, his crew worked with perfect focus. Lieutenant Yuna called out coordinates. Officer Jisiok fired the weapons. Navigator Yunji twisted the ship through impossible turns. Shield at 60%. Yuna reported. Hold course, Do-Yun said. 50%. Hold. 40%. The ship screamed through space, dancing between explosions, spinning away from missiles, always moving, never stopping. And then, suddenly, they were in the middle of the Valari formation. Now, Do-Yun said quietly, the morning star opened fire. Not at one ship. At all of them. But not with normal weapons. The missiles that launched from the human vessel were different. They exploded in bright flashes of light, and suddenly, the Valari ships could not see. Electromagnetic pulse, Jisiok explained with a grin. Blinds their sensors for 30 seconds. 30 seconds was enough. The morning star flew through the confused Valari formation, firing at point-blank range. Without their sensors, the enemy ships could not aim properly. They shot at each other by mistake. They crashed into each other. In 60 seconds, 15 Valari warships were destroyed. The remaining 35 pulled back in chaos. On her throne ship, Queen Thyra stood up. What happened? Report. General Vorik looked at the screen with wide eyes. He destroyed 15 ships, my queen, in 1 minute. Without taking serious damage. That is impossible. And yet it happened. Thyra watched as the morning star pulled back to its original position, floating calmly in front of the planet. It looked damaged. Smoke came from several sections. But it was still there. Still fighting. Send the second wave, Thyra commanded. 200 ships this time. 200 ships moved forward. They were more careful now, spreading out to avoid the same trap. But Dohyun had already changed his plan. The Morning Star dove toward the planet's atmosphere. The Valari ships followed, weapons firing. They thought they had him trapped. They thought he was running. They were wrong. The human ship used the planet's gravity to increase its speed. It swung around in a tight curve that should have torn it apart. The Valari ships tried to follow, but they were too big, too slow. 20 of them could not adjust in time and burned up in the atmosphere. 30 more crashed into each other, trying to turn dot when the Morning Star emerged from behind the planet. It caught the remaining Valari ships from behind. Another devastating attack. Another 30 ships destroyed in minutes. The second wave retreated with only 120 ships left dot in her throne room. Thyra was silent. Her generals whispered to each other. Her children looked at her with uncertain eyes. This was not how war was supposed to go. The Valari were supposed to crush their enemies easily. They were supposed to win without effort. Third wave, Thyra said, her voice like grinding stone. 500 ships. And I want the Bloodfang Squadron. The Bloodfang Squadron was her elite force. 100 ships crewed by her best warriors. Soldiers who had never lost a battle. They were legendary throughout the galaxy. When the Bloodfang came, civilizations surrendered without fighting. But as the 500 ships approached the Morning Star, something strange happened. They slowed down. General Varric received a communication from the lead ship. He listened, and his face went pale. "My queen, the Bloodfang commander wishes to speak with you. Put him through." A scarred Valari face appeared on the screen. Commander Thrax, the leader of the Bloodfang, the most feared warrior in the fleet. He had killed more enemies than anyone could count. He had burned 100 worlds, and he looked afraid. "My queen," Thrax said slowly, "I have served you for 300 years. I have never questioned an order. I have never hesitated in battle. But I must tell you something." "Speak," Thyra commanded. "That ship, that commander, I know who he is. I was there at Titan Station. I was one of the few who survived. I saw what he did to your sons. I saw the bodies. I saw—" He paused, struggling to continue. "I saw a human who would not die, who could not be stopped, who turned every attack into a defeat. Are you refusing my order?" Thyra's voice was dangerous. "No, my queen. I will attack. I will follow your command. But I want you to understand something. If we go in there, we will win eventually. Our numbers are too great. But the price—" Thrax shook his head. "The price will be terrible. We will lose thousands of ships. Maybe more. And even then, I am not sure we will kill him. I have seen this human break every rule of war. He does not fight like anyone else. He fights like someone who has already accepted death and is just waiting to take as many enemies with him as possible." Thyra was silent. Around her, the throne room was completely still. "My queen," Varric said carefully, "perhaps there is another way. We could bypass this colony. Take other worlds first. Return when—" "Silence!" Thyra roared. "I am the queen of the Valari Empire. I do not retreat. I do not run from one human." She turned to the screen where the Morning Star floated peacefully among the debris of destroyed Valari ships. "I want to speak to him," she said. "Open a channel to that ship, now." A moment later, a human face appeared on her screen. Park Do-yoon looked at her with calm, steady eyes. He was sitting in his captain's chair, surrounded by his crew. There was blood on his face from a small cut, but he did not seem to notice. "Queen Thyra," he said, "I wondered when you would call." "You killed my sons," Thyra said, her voice trembling with old rage. "They were trying to kill innocent people. I stopped them. You have destroyed nearly 200 of my ships. You attacked my colony. I defended it." Thyra leaned forward on her throne. "Why? Why do you fight so hard? You are one man, one small, weak human. You cannot win. Even if you destroy 1,000 of my ships, I will still have 9,000 more. You must know this is hopeless." Diane smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen too much death, felt too much pain, and had come out the other side harder than diamond. "You want to know why I fight? Because someone has to. Because those 40 million people on that planet deserve to live. Because the galaxy needs to know that the Valari Empire is not unstoppable. Because every tyrant who has ever lived has eventually met someone who said no." He stood up from his chair. "I am that someone, Queen Thyra. I am the wall you cannot break. I am the voice that will not be silent. And I am the nightmare that will follow you for the rest of your very long life. Every time you try to sleep, you will see my face. Every time you attack the innocent, you will remember this day. Every time you think you have won, you will hear my words." His eyes burned with something that was not quite anger. It was something deeper, something that had been forged in the fires of 100 battles. The Valari Empire ends here. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it ends. Because now the galaxy knows you can be beaten. And once people know that, they will never stop fighting. He sat back down. "So send your ships, Queen Thyra. Send all 10,000. I am ready." And in that moment, something changed. The Valari soldiers watching the broadcast felt it. The generals in the throne room felt it. Even Queen Thyra felt it. Fear. Real, genuine fear of one human. On the bridge of the Morning Star, Commander Park Da-yoon sat in his chair and stared at the enemy fleet. They were not moving. For 3 hours now, 10,000 Valari warships had done nothing. They just floated there, weapons ready but silent. "This is strange," said Lieutenant Yuna, her fingers resting on her console. "Why are they waiting?" Do-yoon did not answer. He knew why. He had hoped they would not find out who he was. He had hoped to remain just another human commander. But hope was a luxury in war. "They know my name," he said quietly. Yuna looked at him. So did the other officers on the bridge. They had heard stories about their commander, of course. Everyone in the human fleet had heard stories. But Do-yoon never talked about his past. He never bragged. He never told tales of his victories. "Sir," said Officer Jisiok from the weapons station, "permission to speak freely?" Do-yoon nodded. "We have all heard things," Jisiok said carefully. "About Titan Station, about the other battles. But we do not know what is true and what is just legend." Do-yoon smiled sadly. "What do you want to know?" "Everything," said a young officer named Shin Yoonji from the navigation station. She was only 22, the youngest on the bridge. Her eyes were bright with curiosity and something else. Fear, maybe. Or hope. "We are about to fight the largest fleet in the galaxy. If we are going to die, we want to know who we are dying beside." Do-yoon was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up from his chair and walked to the window. The stars stretched out before him, cold and endless. "I was not always like this," he began. "When I was young, I was afraid of everything. I was small for my age, weak. Other children bullied me. I cried easily. My father told me I was a disappointment." The bridge was silent. No one had expected this. "I joined the military because I had nowhere else to go. I was not brave. I was not strong. I was just there, a body filling a uniform. My commanders did not expect anything from me. Neither did I." He paused, his eyes distant. Then came Titan Station. Do-yoon turned to face his crew. His face was calm, but something deep and painful moved behind his eyes. "When the Valari attacked, I was just a lieutenant. I had 50 soldiers under my command. Good soldiers, but young, scared. When the main force was destroyed in the first hour, everyone ran. My commanding officer told me to evacuate. He said the station was lost. But you stayed, Yuna said softly. I stayed, Dohyun agreed. Not because I was brave. Because I could not leave. There were 10,000 people in that station. Families, children, old people who could not walk. If we left, they would all die. Every single one. He walked back to his chair, but did not sit down. That first night, I gathered my soldiers in the main hall. They were terrified. Some were crying. They asked me what we should do. I had no plan. I had no special training. I was as scared as they were. What did you tell them? Asked Yoonji. I told them the truth. I said we would probably die. I said the Velari were stronger than us, faster than us, more numerous than us. I said that no one was coming to save us, and that even if we fought perfectly, we might still lose. Dahyun's voice grew stronger. And then I told them something else. I told them that dying is not the worst thing that can happen to a person. The worst thing is dying for nothing. The worst thing is running away while innocent people scream behind you. The worst thing is living the rest of your life knowing you were a coward when it mattered. The bridge was completely silent. I told them that if we stayed, we would give those 10,000 people a chance. Maybe a small chance. Maybe a tiny, stupid, impossible chance. But a chance. And that was worth more than our lives. Officer Jizeok wiped something from his eye. What happened then? They stayed, Dohyun said simply. All 50 of them. Not because I ordered them to. Because they chose to. We set up defenses in the corridors. We used anything we could find. Tables, chairs, broken machinery. We made traps. We created choke points. We prepared to fight. He sat down in his chair, suddenly looking very tired. The first wave came at dawn. 100 Velari soldiers. Elite troops with the best weapons and armor. We killed them all in 2 hours. The second wave came at noon. 500 soldiers. We lost 12 of our people, but we held. By sunset, the Velari had sent 1,000 troops, and 1,000 troops had died. How? Yuna asked. How did 50 soldiers defeat 1,000? We did not fight fair, Dohyun said. We used the station against them. We knew every corridor, every room, every hiding place. We set fires to block their path. We flooded sections with toxic gas from the laboratories. We dropped heavy machinery from above. We did things that no proper military would approve of. He leaned back in his chair. But mostly, we did not give up. Every time they pushed us back, we pushed harder. Every time they thought they had won, we surprised them. The Velari are used to enemies who surrender. They are used to enemies who lose hope. They did not know what to do with enemies who kept fighting no matter what. And the Queen's sons? Jiseok asked carefully. Dayan's face went dark. They came on day 15. 3 of them. Princes of the Velari Empire. They had killed 100 commanders before me. They were huge, powerful, covered in golden armor. They walked into the station like gods, expecting everyone to fall at their feet. What did you do? I waited for them in the central chamber, alone. My soldiers wanted to come, but I told them to stay back. This was personal. Dohyun looked at his hands. They were steady now, but there were scars on his knuckles. Old scars. The fight lasted 6 hours. They were stronger than me, faster than me, better trained than me. But I did not care about winning. I only cared about making them bleed. Every time they knocked me down, I got up. Every time they cut me, I cut them back. They broke my arm. I kept fighting. They cracked my ribs. I kept fighting. They thought I would eventually fall. But you didn't, Yoonji whispered. No, I didn't. because falling meant those 10,000 people would die. And I could not allow that. I could not allow myself to lose. He was silent for a moment. In the end, I killed all 3 of them. I do not remember how. The last thing I remember is standing over their bodies, covered in blood, some of it mine, most of it theirs. My soldiers found me an hour later. I was still standing, still holding my weapon, still watching the door, waiting for more enemies to come. The bridge was quiet for a long time. Finally, Yuna spoke. And after? After Titan Station? Do-hyun shrugged. I became famous. People called me a hero. They gave me medals. They promoted me. They made me a symbol. But I never wanted any of that. I just wanted to protect people. That is all I have ever wanted. He looked out the window at the frozen Valari fleet. They are afraid of me, he said. Not because I am special. Not because I have magic powers or secret weapons. They are afraid because I showed them something they did not want to see. I showed them that they can be beaten, that they can die, that all their power means nothing against someone who will not give up. Officer Jizyok stood at attention. Sir, it is an honor to serve under you. One by one, every officer on the bridge stood and saluted. Do-hyun looked at them, these brave men and women who had chosen to stand with him against impossible odds. The honor is mine, he said quietly. Now, let us show the Valari Empire what humans are made of. Outside, the enemy fleet began to move at last. The battle was about to begin. Queen Thyra sat on her throne of bones. The bones belonged to kings and queens she had killed over 500 years of conquest. Each one told a story. Each one reminded the galaxy what happened to those who stood against the Valari Empire. Her throne room was vast, larger than most human buildings. The walls were made of black stone that absorbed light. Torches burned with purple flame, casting strange shadows. Around her stood her advisors, her generals, her children. They waited in silence, as they always did, because Thyra did not like noise. She was ancient by any standard. Her gray skin had darkened to almost black over the centuries. Her eyes, once bright red, now burned like dying stars. But she was not weak. Her mind was sharp. Her will was iron. She had conquered 3,000 worlds and killed billions of creatures. Nothing surprised her anymore. Nothing frightened her. My queen, said General Vorik, stepping forward. He was her finest warrior, covered in scars from 1,000 battles. The human colony is surrounded. Their pathetic defense fleet has been destroyed. Only one ship remains. Thyra waved her long, thin hand. One ship means nothing. Crush it and take the planet. I want the humans dead by morning. Yes, my queen, but... Vorik paused. This was dangerous. Thyra did not like hesitation. Speak, she commanded. The ship will not surrender. Our diplomat made contact. The human commander refused our offer. He laughed at us. A soft murmur passed through the throne room. Laughed? At the Valari? Some of the younger warriors shifted their feet, confused. They had never heard of such a thing. Thyra leaned forward on her throne. Laughed? Yes, my queen. He said that if you want the planet, you must come through him first. For a moment, Thyra felt something strange. It was almost like amusement. How long had it been since anyone had shown such spirit? 100 years? 200? Most species simply surrendered. They cried. They begged. They died on their knees. Interesting, she said slowly. Who is this commander? Vorik checked the data on his arm device. One moment, my queen. Our intelligence is analyzing his ship's signature. He paused as the information loaded. The ship is old. A human battlecruiser called the Morning Star. It has been in service for 30 years. Its commander is... Vorik stopped speaking. His body went stiff. The color drained from his face, which was strange because Valari did not usually show emotion. "General?" Thyra said, her voice like ice. "What is wrong with you?" Vorik looked up at her. His eyes were wide. When he spoke, his voice shook like a young child's. "My queen." "The commander's name is Park Doyen." The throne room went silent. Completely silent. Even the flames seemed to stop moving. Thyra felt her heart stop. Both of them. For the first time in 300 years, she felt cold. "What did you say?" She whispered. "Park Doyen," Vorik repeated. "The human from Titan Station. The one they call the Undying Wall." Queen Thyra stood up from her throne. This had never happened before. She never stood for anyone. Her children stepped back in shock. Her advisors looked at each other with confusion and fear. "Leave me," Thyra commanded. "All of you, now." They ran. Even Vorik, the greatest general of the Valari Empire, ran from that room like a frightened animal. In seconds, Thyra was alone. She walked to the window of her ship. Outside, she could see her fleet. 10,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. The greatest military force in the galaxy. Unbeatable. Unstoppable. And suddenly, it did not feel like enough. Thyra closed her eyes and remembered. 15 years ago. Titan Station. Titan was a moon of the planet Saturn in the human home system. The Valari had sent a fleet of 500 ships to take it. Simple. Easy. Just another conquest. But there was a problem. A young human soldier named Park Doyen. He was nobody special back then. Just a lieutenant leading a small unit of 50 soldiers. When the Valari landed their troops, most of the human defenders died in the first hour. The survivors ran. All except Do-hyun. He took his 50 soldiers into the main station and locked the doors. Inside were 10,000 civilians, women, children, old people. They had nowhere to run. Thyra had sent her best troops to break through. She had sent 100 soldiers. Do-hyun killed them all. She sent 500 more. They died too. She sent her own sons, 3 of them, the pride of her bloodline, warriors who had never lost a battle. Park Do-hyun killed all 3. For 47 days, he held that station. 47 days of constant fighting. The Valari threw everything at him. Bombs, gas, fire. Nothing worked. Every morning, they would attack. Every night, they would count their dead. And every night, over the radio, they would hear his voice. Calm, steady, unbroken. Still here. Come and get me. By the end, the Valari soldiers were afraid to enter the station. They called it the House of Death. They called Doyen something else. The Undying Wall. A demon in human form. Eventually, human reinforcements arrived. Do-hyun walked out of that station carrying a child in one arm and a gun in the other. Behind him, 10,000 civilians walked free, and behind them, the bodies of 2,000 Valari soldiers. Thyra had lost more than soldiers that day. She had lost 3 sons. She had lost her pride. She had lost something she never thought she could lose. She had lost a battle. Now, 15 years later, that same man was standing between her and her prize. One man, one old ship. And somehow, it felt like a mountain. Thyra walked back to her throne and sat down heavily. She pressed a button on her armrest. "General Vorik," she said, "return to the throne room." A minute later, Vorik entered. He looked nervous. Good. He should be. "My queen?" "Tell me," Thyra said slowly. "What else do we know about Park Doyen? What has he done since Titan Station?" Vorik swallowed hard. "He has been busy, my queen. After Titan, he led the defense of the Andromeda outpost. Our forces outnumbered him 50-1. He rescued 2,000 civilians and destroyed 80 of our ships. What else?" The Battle of Red Sky. He held a mining colony against our siege for 6 months. When we finally broke through, we found that he had evacuated everyone through underground tunnels. He was the last one out. He collapsed the tunnels behind him, burying 1,000 of our troops. What else? Vorik's voice was barely a whisper now. He has fought us 11 times, my queen. 11 times he has won. Our soldiers tell stories about him at night. They say he cannot die. They say he is protected by dark magic. They say, double quotes, he stopped. Say it, Tyra commanded. They say that to speak his name is bad luck. That those who hunt him always die. Tyra was silent for a long time. Outside, her fleet waited. 10,000 ships, filled with millions of soldiers. And somewhere out there, in a broken old vessel, one human was preparing to fight them all. My queen, Vorik said carefully, what are your orders? Tyra looked at him with eyes that burned like ancient stars. We wait, she said. I need to think. And for the first time in 500 years, the Valari Empire did not attack. They simply waited, frozen in space, afraid of one name, Park Delian, the Undying Wall. The stars were burning. Commander Park Do-hyun stood at the window of his ship and watched the darkness fill with enemy vessels. They came out of nowhere, jumping through space like angry insects, their hulls glowing with strange purple light. He counted them quietly in his head. 10, 50, 200. He stopped counting when he reached 1,000. The ship beneath his feet was called the Morning Star. It was old. The metal walls had scratches and dents from 100 battles. The engines made strange sounds when they pushed too hard. But this ship was home to 300 humans, and Do-hyun would protect them with his life. Commander, said a voice behind him. They are still coming. Do-hyun turned around. Lieutenant Kim Yuna stood at her station, her fingers moving fast over the glowing screens. She was young, maybe 25 years old, but her eyes were calm. She had seen war before. They all had. How many now? Do-hyun asked. Yuna looked at her screen and took a deep breath. 10,000 warships, sir. Maybe more. Our sensors cannot count them all. The bridge went silent. Every officer stopped working. 10,000 ships. The Morning Star was one ship. One old, tired ship against 10,000. Do-hyun walked to the center of the bridge. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. He was not a tall man, but when he stood straight, something about him made others feel safe. His hair was gray at the sides now. His face had lines from years of worry and fighting. But his eyes were still sharp, still alive. Show me the planet, he said. The main screen changed. It showed Kepler 442b, a beautiful world of blue oceans and green forests. 40 million humans lived there. Men, women, children, farmers, teachers, doctors. They had come here to start new lives, far from the old wars of Earth. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. The Valari Empire, said Officer Han Jisiok from the weapons station. He was a big man with strong arms and a beard that he never trimmed properly. They took the outer colonies last month. Killed everyone. Now they want this world too. Do-hyun nodded slowly. He knew the Valari well. Too well. They were tall creatures, almost 3 meters high, with skin like gray stone and eyes that glowed red in the dark. They believed that the galaxy belonged to them. They believed that other species were insects, things to crush under their feet. For 500 years, the Valari Empire had conquered world after world. No one had ever stopped them. No one had ever even slowed them down. Until humans came. Sir, said Yuna, we are receiving a message from the colony. Governor Choi Minji wants to speak with you. Do-hyun walked to the communication screen. A woman's face appeared. She was maybe 60 years old, with white hair pulled back tight. Her eyes were red from crying. but she held herself with dignity. "Commander Park," she said, "please tell me you have a plan." Do-hyun looked at her for a long moment. What could he say? That he would somehow defeat 10,000 ships with one? That everything would be fine? He was not a man who told comfortable lies. "Governor," he said, "I need you to move everyone underground. Use the mining tunnels. Take food, water, medicine. Everything you can carry. For how long? As long as it takes." The governor's face changed. She understood. "You are going to fight them. Alone." "Not alone," Do-hyun said. "I have my crew. And I have something else." "What?" Do-hyun smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had walked through fire and come out the other side. "I have fought the Valari before, Governor. I know them. I know how they think, how they move, how they feel fear." "The Valari do not feel fear," the governor said. "Everyone feels fear," Do-hyun replied. "Even monsters." He ended the call and turned back to his crew. They were all looking at him. 300 faces, some young, some old. Engineers, soldiers, doctors, pilots. They had families on that planet below. They had everything to lose. "I will not lie to you," Do-hyun said, his voice filling the bridge. "This will be the hardest fight of our lives. The Valari have come to take everything from us. Our homes, our families, our future. They think we are weak. They think we will surrender and beg for mercy." He paused and looked at each face, one by one. "They are wrong." A sound came from the speakers. A deep, rumbling voice that was not human. "Attention, human vessel. This is the Valari Imperial Fleet. You are surrounded. Resistance is meaningless. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Fight us, and we will make them slow." The bridge was silent. Do-hyun walked slowly to the main screen. The Valari ships hung in space like dark clouds, blocking out the stars. They were beautiful in a terrible way, all sharp angles and glowing weapons. "Yuna," Do-hyun said calmly, "open a channel to their flagship." "Yes, sir." A moment passed. Then the screen flickered and a Valari face appeared. It was a diplomat. Do-hyun could tell. Soft skin, golden decorations on its head, eyes that looked down at him like he was dirt. "Human," the diplomat said, "you have heard our offer. Will you accept?" Do-hyun looked at the alien for a long moment. Then he did something that made the diplomat's eyes grow wide. He laughed. "I have a counteroffer," Do-hyun said. "Leave this system now. Go back to your queen and tell her that Kepler 442b is under my protection. Tell her that if she wants this world, she will have to come through me first." The diplomat stared at him. "You are one ship. We are 10,000. Are all humans this stupid?" "Not stupid," Do-hyun said. "Just stubborn." He nodded at Yuna, and she cut the channel. The screen went dark. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, Officer Jizyok started to laugh. Then another officer joined him. Then another. Soon the whole bridge was laughing, not because anything was funny, but because what else could they do? They were going to fight an empire. And somewhere, in the depths of space, on a ship made of black metal and old bones, Queen Thyra of the Valari Empire received a report about a stubborn human commander. She did not know his name yet, but soon she would never forget it.